What does your shirt
Yeah, I
say?
think it,
Oh, sorry.
I got this at Value Village. It says I have enough shoes and in quotes,
Ah!
and then it says said no one ever.
You have lots of shoes. That's funny.
Yeah, I bought it at Value Village for $3.50.
Nice.
Along with a Ghostbusters shirt.
Yeah.
From 2017, it said in the inside tag, but it looks faded. It was well loved, well washed, I guess. But it's like just
Oh.
the ghost, like no logo on it. And I
Oh,
was like, yeah, Ghostbusters.
cute. I haven't been to
What else
Value
did I
Village
buy?
in a while.
Yeah, I think I just bought like a plain like striped t-shirt too or something.
Oh, pardon me.
So I was like, the amount of funny like sayings and stuff they had on t-shirts, I should go here more often.
I know. I always find more than I intended to buy, especially if I bring rain.
That's cool. I didn't expect to find like like retro looking Ghostbusters. It's like,
Yeah. No, not there necessarily. You gotta look for a good find at secondhand places.
yeah. And then it said like, who you gonna call? And I was like, yeah, it's like
Nice.
Ghostbusters. Yeah.
I like that. They sometimes have cool little like knickknacks and then like seasonal like
Yeah.
Halloween stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. And typically the one that's gonna go and buy like weird random mug or like a cup or something for
Yeah.
my wall. But I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever bought clothes other than my leather jacket. I don't think I've ever bought anything clothing wise really there.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well, you find a jam occasionally. I like shopping at places like that. I don't mind it for like,
Yeah.
tops and yeah, jackets and stuff like that. But
And I've bought shoes, I've bought purses there before.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there was places where they would sell used bras and stuff like that we would go to, and then they have big stuff in the bins, and I don't mind going through the bins, but like the used underwear is where I'm like,
No.
no, I draw the line.
No. Yeah.
It's too much.
I draw the line at bodily fluids.
Well, just like underwears and like swimsuits. Yeah.
Yeah. No, man.
All right. You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. I'm Alanna.
I'm Kelsey.
And you are listening to episode 52. 52 times you heard that little intro. Maybe, possibly, if you've been here from the beginning. You heard our little wolf howl. I should have just got Fenrir to record that, my dog, and just saved some money.
Yeah.
I have no musical talent though, like of that audio kind.
Well, we could have like recorded a creaky door, your dog, and then I had Pat like just remix.
Put on some of your spookiest tracks that you own, because it's got some weird records. It's true.
Next time.
No, it's like I really like our intro music and our logo art and all that stuff. I think everybody did a really good job. But yeah, we're here to talk about aliens today. That's really exciting. It's been a little while. It's been a minute.
A long time, yeah.
Or maybe it's just been a short time, but we were abducted and the time was distorted and we don't know.
Yeah.
It's quite possible. No, this one comes out, speaking of time, April 15th. Okay, halfway through. Might look like spring by this time this comes out. And by the time this comes out, Patreon videos will be up to date. I wanted to let you guys know. Our January cryptid cupcakes. I captioned it like, we make some chocolate snake cupcakes on Patreon. And I was like, say that 5 times fast.
Yeah. And then fail how many times I failed at making a Bigfoot cupcake.
Yeah, I didn't maybe get the right icing. We'll try again. And now I have Bigfoot cookie cutters too. So
yeah.
Coming
Cookies
soon.
Would be easier to decorate because it's flatter.
Yeah, I just need a better piping bag and like some nice thick icing, and then we can just boop, 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 make it look like the nice hair and stuff. Oh yeah. But yeah, by the time this comes out, then that one will be out. That was from January. For your birthday, we did that one. And then our February one will be out too, which is our Vegas jaunts and haunts. And yeah, you can watch me get electrocuted. And
oh yeah, I'm like, it seems so long ago already.
I know. Oh, but it was fun. And then like just some of the weird shit we saw, some of the fun excursions. Yeah, that place was trippy. The Meow Wolf. I just have to finish editing that. Yeah.
So weird.
It was crazy. I was telling my sister about it. I was like, they had like, it looked like a regular grocery store for the most part when you first got in there until you got up close to things, and then everything was weird. And behind the meat counter, there was like, it was like the thinking man statue, but he's made all of hamburger, and just like everything is just so like, Twin Peaks backwards, whatever. No.
I showed my mom and dad a bunch of pictures, and then I showed them a couple like the videos I took, and then I found on YouTube, I think like a walkthrough. Where it like starts in the like grocery store, and then you like go through the tunnel in the cooler, and then so it was like cool, like all the trippy like drink bottles like slowly melting, and then it was like and then you walk into this thing and it's like alien spaceship.
Wow. Oh wow, I wonder if that was official, or if that, because I mean they really didn't mind photography or videotaping, but I can't believe someone took the time to like slowly videotape the whole thing. That seems like it would take a while.
It was like some sort of like trailer for it when it kind of opened. It was only a couple minutes long. But yeah, it was kind of cool. It didn't show like every room. It was just kind of like a montage-y type thing, but it was pretty cool.
You really couldn't. I was taking videos of rooms where it was like, oh, well, it's hard to see what's going on here because there was a bunch of lasers, and then when you played with the lasers, they made different sounds. So of course it didn't like really transfer. It was pitch black in the room. It was hard to tell what was going on.
Just like 8 people standing there going boop, 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 boop,
boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
And it's just doing like just the most random sounds. Some of it was like
you think you're like looking at a big harp.
Preaching.
Yeah. But it's like red lasers. You're like, okay. Sure. Who thought of this? All right.
Way too much time on it. It was insane.
Oh, it was really cool. I liked it. Shout out Vegas. Thank you. Did we ever shout out our cab driver that we got like 3 times? Because I was thinking about that.
No. What was his name? It started with an R.
I think it was Robert. And he did like podcasts. Because by the 3rd time, I was like, I'm going to tell him. Yeah. Sorry, what?
He couldn't look up our podcast or something, so when he was stopped at a red light, he like handed you his phone and
I was
just in Spotify.
I was like, I'll help you for sure. Yeah. I know it's hard to spell, and like, look, give me a sec.
So like out of what, maybe a quarter, like a fifth of the cab rides we had over 4.5 days, we had him 3 times.
Yeah, it's very unusual. That actually doesn't even happen to me.
So weird.
Yeah, even when I took cabs home every night in Edmonton when I was working at a bar, unless I called for the same person, it's like there was no guarantee. And I'm sure Vegas is bigger than Edmonton.
Yeah, it was at different times of days from different areas. Like
he was really cool. I recognized him every time by like I'd hear his voice and I look over and then he usually had his same, I think it was like a US flag on his mask, like because they still have to wear the masks when you're in the cabs and stuff. And I'd be like, oh hey, it's you. Do you remember us? Because I remember you.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. And then I was like, well, we went to the Honda Museum because everyone's telling you what to go and do and see there. And then I was like, did you go to the Honda Museum? And then he like was like, no, I was too scared, like totally deadpan. But then I was like, oh, really? And he was like, no, I'm just kidding. And I was like, oh, he really got me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
everybody had like 100 recommendations on what we should do. We really didn't have enough time to do any.
It's a great city. I can see why people are proud to be like, oh, you should go do this, or I heard this is cool. But yeah, it's a lot. You're like, okay, I know. I've seen all these cool things, but I don't know if I'll have time to do them all. I wanted to go to that bar that had like outdoor games like Jenga on the tables and stuff, and we didn't get back to that. There's just a few different little places. Next time. Oh. Well, to kick us off, I do have a little bit of information about, it's not necessarily a fun fact that we learned on the internet, but it's more of an explanation of the classes of the close encounters that we've all heard of.
Yeah.
The close encounters of the third kind being probably the most famous. The movie. But sidebar, I did think about maybe calling this one Close Encounters All the Kinds. The episode.
All the kinds.
Well, we'll see once we get into the stories if it ticks any of the other boxes. But in ufology, or however you prefer to say it, I don't know. A close encounter is an event in which a person witnesses an unidentified flying object, of course. This terminology and the system of classification behind it were first suggested in astronomer and UFO researcher J. Allen Hynek's 1972 book, The UFO Experience, A Scientific Inquiry.
Scientific inquiry.
I now picture the guy that played Littlefinger because he also played Hynek in that Blue Book show, Project Blue Book. Just depicting the actual Project Blue Book. Yeah, it was the guy that played Littlefinger. So I may have visions of him whenever this guy's name comes up. But obviously he's big in UFO research. And the rest of the Wikipedia is categories beyond Hynek's original 3 have been added by others, but have not gained universal acceptance, mainly because they lack the scientific rigor that Hynek aimed to bring to ufology. I'll never know how I want to say it. But
I have such trouble with that word.
When I see it, it confuses me. When I hear it, I'm like, yeah, sounds great. I don't know. Ufology.
What is ufology?
No, but this was cool because it actually had a little bit expanded on the different kinds, and they even include nocturnal lights, not as the first kind, second kind, or anything, but just if you see lights, I mean, it could be, it's unidentified, it's lights. Oh, okay. Like lights in the night sky are unidentified flying object lights. No. but they do count it as one of the sub-classifications: nocturnal lights and daylight discs, which is just UFOs seen in the daytime, generally having discoidal or oval shapes. They usually do. What?
I said or Tic Tacs.
Yeah, which are pretty oval. Yeah, cigar shape, whatever they call them. They're usually quite rounded. And then there's radar visual. So I guess that would probably just be if you saw them on your little blips on your radar screen. If you're like in the military. I was like, what's the flying military? I have to cut it out. The Air Force. Thank you.
Or the Navy. The Navy has little radars too.
My partner of many years, Pat, who's in the military, is cringing. My sister's in the Navy. She's rolling her eyes. I'll cut it out. No, I won't. Little blips. Okay, but the close encounters of the first kind are visual sightings of an unidentified flying object, seemingly less than 500 feet or 150 meters away, that show an appreciable angular extension and considerable detail. And close encounters of the second kind are classified as a UFO event in which a physical effect is alleged. This could be interference in the functioning of a vehicle or electronic device, animals reacting, physiological effects such as paralysis or heat and discomfort in the witness, or some physical trace like impressions in the ground, scorched or otherwise affected vegetation, or a chemical trace.
Okay.
So they like,
that's the second one.
So they leave some kind of a mark. Yeah. And then close encounters of the third kind are UFO encounters in which an animated entity is present. These include humanoids, robots, and humans who seem to be occupants or pilots of a UFO. That's specific.
Sign me up.
I've never heard of humans
of a UFO
pilot. Yeah. I'm like, huh? And those are all the ones that J. Allen Hynek originally came up with, but there's a few that have been added over time that people have come up with that he didn't sanction, kind of thing. The choked in my spit. The close encounters of the fourth kind is a UFO event in which a human is abducted by a UFO or its occupants. And this type was not included in Hynek's original close encounter scale. It says Hynek's erstwhile associate Jacques Vallée argued in the Journal of Scientific Exploration that the fourth kind should refer to, quote, cases when witnesses experienced a transformation of their sense of reality, so as to include non-abduction cases where absurd, hallucinatory, or dreamlike events are associated with UFO encounters.
Okay.
Those are still intense encounters if that happens, I would say.
Yeah.
And then it said the film The Fourth Kind makes reference to this category, which I did see. The film The Fourth
I don't
Kind.
think I've ever seen it.
It had the girl from the Resident Evil, I think, Mila Jovovich or whatever, and she's from the Fifth Element and all that. The girl from that.
Okay. I watched that movie not really paying attention to it because it was just
The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny though. I mean, it's kind of a cult classic, but yeah, I think it's funny. No, but this one was like The Fourth Kind was, from my memories, I was like, oh yeah, didn't that one have real clips in it? But it was kind of like the pseudo documentary, like the Blair Witch. So it was supposed to seem like it was based on real,
like the found footage thing.
I think so, but then she also said she was playing someone in the movie, like Mila Jovovich was like, I'm playing this person, blah blah blah. But then if you look it up, there's also a documentary called Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind. So basically the same name, and it says it's a documentary about a real person. And I'm like, I didn't see that one. I don't know. Like,
that's very confusing.
It could be art imitating life or just life imitating art. I don't know. But finally, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Oh, no, all I'll say about that one is I remember also there was the clips that I was like, oh, weren't those real clips? It was like alien guttural sounding voices that were like yelling Sumerian fucking language shit. And that's what I remember. It was freaky. It was a freaky film. It's worth watching, I think.
It's on my watch list on like Letterboxd or something.
I don't know, but that might be a hot take or an unpopular opinion. Who knows? But yeah, no, I would watch it.
I'm about to acquire a Gordon.
A Gordon. He's getting the full name treatment. Oh, sorry. So finally, a close encounter of the fifth kind is a UFO event claiming direct communication between aliens and humans. So remember that. Are you up?
He's so big. Oh, he's like taking up my entire torso. Oh, he's so sweet.
Are you being a thick kitty? I just read somewhere the other day that someone said, oh, cats are attracted to people working. That's why they get in the way. I thought that was cute. Sounds right.
It's stuff that like the reason why cats like want to like play with your phone or like mess with your laptop when you're trying to use it and stuff.
Yeah.
Is because they like to imitate people. So they actually say one way to like combat it is people will actually take cardboard and they'll like print out like a picture of like a laptop screen and a laptop keyboard and like glue it to like the cardboard, or they'll have like a pillow made that like looks like a laptop, and then the cat just plays with the pillow and leaves their laptop alone. It's kind of funny.
What if you got them like one of those kids' toys? Like I remember we had to play computer for rain. There's like, here you go.
Yeah, and then like they'll show pictures where they'll be like, yeah, the cat doesn't mess with my laptop because when I'm on my laptop, the cat's on his now, and it shows the cat like playing with his laptop, and it's like, oh my god, that's hilarious.
I know I've seen them do it on like I've never seen that. That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
Yeah, some of the other podcasters in our groups and stuff and our friends are like, they'll be like doing drawings. One of them does a lot of those on Instagram, the time lapse type of like of them sketching stuff. And there was one they were sketching like a Ouija board, I think I remember, and they're just like, yeah, my thick kitty kept getting in the way, and the butt kept half appearing on the page. You could see their little what are those cats that are like kind of gray and brownish? I forget what they're called, but like, yeah, like darker, kind of darkish gray and like.
I'm not sure. I'm not good with cat breeds. Cats are like weird that they have breeds.
We had one that was like this that I'm thinking of. His name is Bo, so my mom will know because she acquired him after we acquired him, which is the only reason we ended up having two cats, Pat and I, because of people that lived at the apartment that he was living in. And hey, if they need a good home, oh my god, he looked right at me, so cute. Okay. I'm dead. He owns my heart now.
He's just nuzzling his head like in my neck.
His eyes are so blue. He looked at me and I was like,
very, very blue.
Oh no. The cats and the sniffles. No.
Yeah. And the purring and Gordo like kicking my laptop, me being afraid he's gonna close Zoom.
He looks very affronted that you're trying to accomplish anything productive. He's like, how dare you?
You're so big. Okay.
We're gonna have to put the laptop on you, Gordo. Just kidding. I did say your name. Yes, I did.
Cute.
Looked at me again. Those piercing blue eyes. It's like Zoolander. Blue steel.
So I think most people that know like UFOs know about covering today the Berkshire Ufo sighting.
Maybe.
I
don't know from the name that I know exactly which one it is.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of it. I heard of it the first time maybe a year or two ago, because they did when they rebooted that Unsolved Mysteries show.
Yeah.
On Netflix. They actually talked about it in one episode, and that was the first time I had heard about it.
Oh, okay. I know I did watch
Yeah.
the new Unsolved Mysteries. So then, okay.
Yeah.
They always have good stuff. They don't put it on there if it's just like, like mostly it's crimes and shit like that, but
Yeah, it
it
was
has to
like
be pretty.
true crime, like
Yeah.
missing persons, and then
Yeah.
the one episode was just UFO. And
Oh,
I
I
was
know.
like,
So,
oh,
well, it's got to be a good UFO encounter then for it to be on
yeah.
there. Yeah. For that guy to talk about it, all seriously.
Yeah.
Can't remember his
So
name, but yeah.
Berkshire is actually part of a county of Massachusetts, and it
Oh.
had several UFO sightings that actually spanned several nights, and there were a bunch of witnesses. And
Oh.
the Berkshire County region is actually made of kind of a collection of a bunch of small towns, and it has quite large areas of wilderness. Um, this makes it a popular destination for hikers in the summer.
Okay. See, and I thought it was England, because whenever I hear Shire or Sure or
Yeah,
whatever, I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be the England one. But then like North America, almost tons of
Massachusetts.
things are named after, yeah,
Yeah,
Europe stuff. So you're like, oh, okay. Okay, so Massachusetts or whatever. Okay.
yeah. I never know how you're supposed to pronounce that.
Taxachusetts. I've heard it that. I don't know why. Oh, I think we had a friend from there. Maybe he called it that.
Well, so the first encounters I don't really have much information about, but the earliest ones I could find were going back to 1966.
Okay, wow,
And
yeah.
this is kind of like a central figure in the whole Berkshire UFO sightings. The gentleman's name is Thomas Reed. He and his younger
Mm.
brother Matthew say that they were abducted in 1966 and taken onto a ship. They also say that they ended up getting re-abducted in 1967, and then the last and most famous UFO abduction that they had took place during the Berkshire UFO sightings, which largely happened on September 1st of 1969. Thomas at the time was 9 years old, and his younger brother Matthew, their mother, and their grandmother were all abducted, along with a whole bunch of people in town. So
Holy
it's pretty
shit.
crazy. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, oh, September, that's when mine takes place. Okay, what the hell? Everybody?
Well,
Or okay. I
so in
don't know this
Berkshire,
yet.
yeah, in Berkshire County, there's about 40 people that reported UFO activity on September 1st of 1969.
Oh my
This
God.
included a whole bunch of sightings as well as multiple abductions. It's unknown on this day exactly how long the UFO remained in the sky, as many witnesses reported varying amounts of loss of time.
Hmm.
Some people it was a couple minutes, other people it was 3 hours.
Right. And who knows if you even measured the time right, if you didn't look at your watch or whatever, like, because who's always
Yeah,
looking always at the time? Yeah. It's kind of like
right.
maybe they thought it was 15 minutes, but it really was 3 hours or vice versa
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
Oh, creepy.
So several witnesses, including Jane Green, reported seeing blinding lights while she was driving on the freeway.
Well,
And
that's not good.
no, that wouldn't be good. So I assume they were coming towards her.
Ah.
Shortly after, yeah, shortly after, she says she saw a silent flying saucer shaped object that was hovering in the sky.
Yeah.
Others around the county later witnessed the same ship making acrobatic maneuvers in the sky. And at this time, Jane and her friend Mary D. Grace were driving when they had several bright lights ahead of them approaching, and Jane believed that it was actually maybe from police cars, and maybe there
no.
had been an accident. So as they were getting closer, the lights were just getting brighter, and it actually caused Jane to pull the car over to the side of the road because it got so bright she couldn't drive towards it anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that was probably the
Yeah.
safest thing she could have done then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people's
So
LED lights nowadays like blind
it's
me.
insane. Yeah, they should have certain ones definitely people should be getting ticketed for because it's not safe to be like oncoming or for them to even be behind you.
They shouldn't look like high
Like,
beams in this city. Yeah. I'm like, I know my lights were
yeah.
old on my old car, but yeah, it's like they shouldn't be like "Bwah."
Yeah, right? Like I could
Searchlights.
flood a field.
Like floodlights. Yeah. I think that's what they're
Yeah,
sometimes called. Yeah. Ugh, high
I think
beams. Ugh.
so. Yeah. So Jane and Mary ended up getting out of the car and they saw this like huge object that was floating over the road ahead of them. And they say it was so large that they actually couldn't see like the outer edges of it and
Oh
like the ends
man.
of it because it was like filling up basically their entire field of vision. And they
Shit.
also couldn't really make out what color it was.
Well,
It didn't have any, yeah, and
it's
it's
usually
dark. I mean,
dark. Yeah.
yeah, they didn't see any windows on the craft, and they say it didn't make any noise as it suddenly like lifted up, then went to the left, and then went up again before suddenly disappearing over the mountains.
Mm, okay.
Um, mm, so the next one is that witnessed anything was Melanie Kirchdorf, I think.
Nailed it.
Kirchdorfer. She was
Ooh.
12 at the time, and she
Oh.
reported that she was taken on board one of the ships or the ship, and that during this time she saw a bunch of other kids from her school, like in her class, on board, and then she was returned back to Earth. Uh,
Oh. She
yeah,
saw classmates on board?
yeah. It's
Okay.
like a running theme that like people saw each other from town. Um, yeah,
Interesting.
even people that had never met before, like kids that hadn't met, like saw each other for the first time and basically ended up meeting after being like, I saw you on the ship, right? It was, yeah, it's kind of
Really?
weird. Yeah.
Because I I can't help but be reminded of like stupid things we did in like elementary. Because here we have these like little candies called rockets that are just those like little circle sugary thingies.
Or
They
they're
might
called
have them in the States, but call them something else, like
they're
Smarties or
called
something
Smarties.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's we have Smarties, but they're more like M&Ms. Anyway, because
Yeah.
they were called
They're far
rockets.
superior. Yeah.
Yeah. I okay, don't get me started on rocket. Wait, which is far superior, Smarties or M&Ms?
Smarties.
Oh, I don't
No,
like
actual
Smarties.
Smarties.
I don't like the
So
chocolate Smarties.
I hate M&Ms. I've always hated them.
Well, see, to be honest, I don't really like the plain M&Ms either. Any candy coated chocolate, not really my bag. I mean, the peanut ones are okay. I like those. The peanut
I hate
M&Ms.
those. I'd rather eat nothing than eat M&Ms of any kind.
Peanuts. Well, now we know not to
Yeah.
get those for you. But the ones that were called rockets. So we used to in elementary school, like if we had them in our lunch or whatever from like Halloween, we'd be like, I'm gonna eat my rockets, and tonight I'm gonna go up in my rocket, like, at night or in my dream or whatever, and I'll see you up there. And like we pretend that we were gonna
Oh
take
my,
a rocket, go see each other up. I don't know, in space or in our dreams. So like when you said that, I was like, I went back to elementary school with like a
oh,
memory I
see,
almost
that's
didn't even remember.
way better than what it always makes me think of, and that's kids in my middle school crushing them up and pretending to snort them.
Oh God. Because that's
all
so
I think
cool,
about.
right?
Yeah, it
Addiction.
was like that. Yeah, it was like that and pixie sticks. That's like all that mattered. Fun dip. A kid had to go to the hospital for snorting Fun dip.
Oh my God. It's Jesus,
Yeah.
people. Snorting things, you know, that like directly leads to your brain, right?
Yeah.
At least when I pretended, I would just like take a piece of grass and pretend I was smoking a cigarette because I thought that was cool.
That's candy cigars.
Yes. I guess they were problematic too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So Melanie, her and her family were at the Dairy Queen and they were getting ice cream, and they went to the parking lot at Lake Mansfield, which is said to be about 2 miles away from Tom and Jane's houses. We'll get to them in a minute. And a bright light was shining into their car, and everyone inside the car, like her family, began to panic. And her dad was the one that was driving, and he decided to, for some reason, to chase the light, which basically scared everybody in the family. They didn't want him to chase the light, but he did.
Well, because if it is another vehicle or something, they're like, what is he going to do? Get into a fight with them? And if not, they're like, Dad, what are you doing? We don't know what the hell this is.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, brave of you, I guess.
Right. So they're driving in the car, and Melanie says her and her sister were like in the back, I assume, shaking in fear. And then her and her sister were suddenly just taken elsewhere. And she says her sister doesn't really remember anything, but Melanie remembers being in a room with several of the kids from her class. And she says that one by one, they each kind of disappeared. And before she herself woke up back at the lake, and there was nobody else, like her family wasn't around, and she ended up having to walk by herself home.
Sorry, she woke up back at the what?
At the lake where they had like parked the car. But when she got back,
nothing
was gone. Her family was gone. So she had to walk home.
So scary.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. That one's creepy. And you're just like,
a few of those where you're like, okay, well, like normally people wouldn't like leave their kid behind to walk.
No, and she remembered like going to the Dairy Queen, and it's like that's a fast food place for those of you that aren't where there's Dairy Queens. But yeah, it's like you don't just like take your kid to get ice cream and then like leave him back at the lake.
Right?
Jeez. You.
So the next person is Tom Warner. This one kind of had a little bit of the details kind of conflicting. So Tom Warner is 10. Yeah, he's 10 years old. He says he was taken aboard a ship by some kind of like beam of light, where he says he made telepathic contact with an alien.
Ooh.
And yeah, some reports say that he was at his babysitter Debbie's house, and other reports say that he was at his neighbor Jane Shaw's house.
Okay, but couldn't his neighbor have been his babysitter?
Yeah, so whether or not it's like the neighbor that's the babysitter, or whether or not her name is Debbie or Jane, I'm just gonna assume it's a neighbor that was probably babysitting him, and her name is Jane.
Sure. Debbie Jane.
Debbie Jane also says that she like witnessed him being abducted and his disappearance.
Oh my God.
So yeah, Tom was 10 years old. He was at Jane's house when he noticed it was kind of getting dark out. So it said that he went to the window and started looking outside. And this is when he heard a voice say, quote, "You need to go home now."
Oh God.
Yeah.
Why?
I have no idea. But
This is not
scared
for you. This
Tom,
is not your taxi or Uber.
right? So like this voice scared Tom and he ran outside and then ran across the yard. Jane ended up following him outside and then witnessed Tom, who was now just like stuck running in place in the middle of the yard for about 5 minutes straight. So he's just running in place.
Oh, so like he
Um,
was like caught in a beam or something?
yeah. So
Ew.
during
Or
this,
like a cartoon when they're like their feet try and
yeah,
go in a circle and it just makes that noise like the little I don't know, I can't do it, but
yeah, the Wile E. Coyote always does it. He's the best.
See that flash. Look at me go.
So during this, Tom realized that he wasn't moving and that something was
Ooh.
wrong. So he turned to his left, and that's when he saw a UFO come from the sky. And then that's when he saw the beam of light, like from the craft, shine onto him.
Mm.
When the light hit him, it said that, or he says that it jerked his hands back, like behind his back.
Yeah.
And then Jane says that she saw him like get, I guess, like engulfed by the beam of light. And then it suddenly he was just gone. Tom disappeared.
Shit. It's like he almost
Yeah.
made it, but then nope. He got sucked up.
So after he was like disappeared, Tom says he was taken aboard the ship. And that's where he saw Melanie, from the previous one, who was with her family in Dairy Queen.
Oh.
He says that he saw Melanie and that she looked really afraid, but Melanie herself doesn't remember seeing Tom. And I assume like this is
Right.
part of like Tom was one of the kids that she says she just saw like each one kind of just disappear. And kind of
Okay.
similar to what happened to Melanie, but Tom later returned to the yard and he was like put back down. But when he was put down, he was like put down on his back. And there was a beam of light that said that it was holding him in place so he couldn't move because he was trying to get up. And I guess his brother was like yelling at him to run, and he was yelling back that like he couldn't and that he was trying.
Oh.
And yeah, the same voice that was outside of the window came back and said, "I'll be done in a minute." Just froze. Yeah.
That's so weird.
And
People like don't usually, if that's the beaming down part, they don't usually remember that. It's like, why is he still
right?
stuck? Ooh,
Yeah.
poor little guy.
So he was held down for like another minute or so. And then suddenly the light went away and Tom was able to get up. And this is when Jane, or Debbie, the neighbor slash babysitter, told
Yeah.
him that it had been about 7 minutes since he had disappeared.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it's noted in like all the sources I have that Tom and Melanie later met in person for the first time. They had never met because again, like Berkshire is like a bunch of different counties and a bunch of different, or is a county made up of a bunch of different towns. And some of
Okay.
these towns have like 3,000 people living in it. So it's not likely that like these kids would go to school together, would be like anything like
Mm,
that,
okay.
necessarily.
Yeah, they weren't
Yeah.
classmates, but they lived in a
No.
nearby area.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So Tom and Melanie met later in person for the first time. And she says, like, she still doesn't remember him being on the ship, but she did say that she felt like an immediate connection to him, like she had known him or had met him before. Uh,
Oh, she
yeah, but they never
knows.
had.
Well, or did they? And they've been through a traumatic event together, but she can't really remember it. And neither can
Yeah.
he. Oh, so weird. It would feel so
Um,
odd. You'd be like, okay.
yeah, very creepy. This next like encounter I think is probably the biggest one. And we have the most
Okay.
details about it. And that's the gentleman I mentioned before, Thomas Reed. He's the one that was abducted like 2 times before with his brother. And then
Oh,
this
he wasn't the one you
time,
were just talking about?
no, that's a Tom. This is Tom. Very confused.
Oh, that's why I was like,
Like,
I just took a note. Tom got caught in a beam.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, as long as I'm not insane.
No, it's a different person. When I was reading different stories, they spelled their names wrong in some of them, and I'd be like, wait, which Tom?
Oh no. They have an
Yeah.
affinity for Toms.
Wow. So Thomas Reed, his brother Matthew, their mother, and their grandmother, as I said, they've been abducted a few times before. This time, on September 1st, 1969, they were abducted while driving home from the diner that like Thomas's mother owned, that I think was called Village Green. Some sources say like Village on the Green or the Village Green. Anyway,
Something
so
like
they own
that.
a diner. Yeah.
And
And
they were
Thomas
abducted multiple times?
well, they were abducted, like I said, once in like 1966 and again in 1967, and now this is 1969.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So during the drive back, Thomas said he was giving his younger brother, a fireball candy, which I assume is probably like sour as can be.
Oh, well, okay, I think there's no, I'm thinking of warheads. Those are sour ones. But what
Yeah,
about like something like the cinnamon hearts? Could have been something like a little spicy.
that
Because
would
like,
be. I'm like, this is like 1969, so I'm like, I don't know what kind of candy would have been called Fireball.
but Fireball is alcoholic freaking spirit that's weirdly cinnamony. That's all. I guess that's
Yeah,
what I
it's
was maybe
probably a
thinking
cinnamon
of.
candy then.
Maybe, I don't know, just a guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're in the car, and it said that either like Thomas's mother looks back or Thomas looks back behind the vehicle and notices a mass of glowing light that's kind of behind them in the tree line, like
Ew.
through the trees. You can see a whole bunch of lights like shining through. Um, and it's on basically an empty road. And the lights continued behind the trees as they drove through the covered Sheffield Bridge, which is just like basically a wooden bridge and it's got like the cover in it.
Oh, definitely. We have
And
a covered bridges in New Brunswick. I think we have the
yeah,
longest covered bridge in the world. Don't know
uh,
why.
so this is a quote from Reed. It says, "We all looked at it because it was kind of a self-contained glow. It rose up a little bit. It looked like it followed the dirt road, which I'm sure it probably didn't, but it appeared that way because we could see it through the trees. The light started to bleed through once we broke into a little bit of a clearing. And we could see inside the car, so the light was flooding inside the car." Uh, Reed says the lights were then on both sides of the road, and then he recalls being taken into a hangar-like area that he says was larger than a football field. Quote, "We encountered something. It was definitely not of this world. We had this kind of confusing. We had a black and white television at the time, and the imagery we saw on this thing was unbelievable. There were lights that looked like fluorescent tubing inside this hangar." I'm like, why are you talking about your TV?
Because that's their only probably reference for any kind of fluorescent tubing.
I guess.
I don't know. Not so many neon lights back then.
True. Another quote says, "This hallway we had seen was circular with a Y configuration, almost to control the flow of traffic. This one room had a bowed-in wall that was rounded. This was not something that you would have seen in 1969 anywhere else. I have no idea where I was, but I know that what I saw was very different than anything I've seen today 50 years later."
Yeah, especially a rounded, like a curved
Yeah, like a
wall.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't generally do that, like unless you're in the Hobbit hole. Which they
You're
had a
digging
little
the
Hobbit
tunnel.
house in that exhibit we went to. I remember taking a picture of it. Like a roundhouse, yeah. But I thought of
I
hobbits
don't
immediately.
remember.
Well,
Uh,
we were like overwhelmed at that point. I
yeah,
think
I'm like, I don't remember this at all.
we were trying to make our way back out. Help! How do I get out of here?
No, right? I was like, we're gonna get lost in here. Never gonna be leaving.
Miss our flights 3 days later. Just stuck in the labyrinth, trippiness.
Yeah. So Reed and his family, he says, were suddenly like back inside the car, which had now been turned off. So the car wasn't like on anymore. It wasn't running. And weirdly, and the reason why like I remembered this and it like stuck in my head, like from the 2 years I said since I probably watched this episode, was that his mother and his grandmother had like switched seats in the car when they were back in the car.
Oh,
Yeah.
weird.
And I couldn't find it in my sources, but if I remember correctly, they said it was weird because like something weird like his grandma didn't drive and she was in the driver's seat and she like didn't have a license. And they're like, yeah, grandma wouldn't be in the driver's seat. And it was like, yeah, something weird like
Okay.
that, but I didn't run across
Yeah,
it. So maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but yeah.
well, I know I watched that season because there was one that has come out really recently. It was definitely during the pandemic. I can't remember if it was 2020 or 2021, but that
Yeah.
new season you're referring to of
Yeah.
Unsolved Mysteries. And I don't know, that sounds familiar, like a story with a grandma, and then
Yeah.
maybe was there, I don't know, maybe I've also heard one where they got like lost with a grandma in the woods or something. I might be thinking of something else now entirely, but like if the fact that if they switched positions in the car with no explanation and like just like a
Yeah.
time jump, it's just like when you're
For
watching a video,
three
you can see it's
hours.
been edited. You're like, boop, oh, everybody's somewhere else, or like,
Yeah.
you're like what? Okay, that's so freaky.
Yeah. So apparently 3 hours had passed and all the lights that had surrounded like the car and the forest before were now gone. He says,
Mm.
quote, everything got really calm. It was like being in the middle of a hurricane. There was like
No.
a barometric change in pressure. It was just like a dead silence. Then there was an eruption of crickets and frogs, and it got really loud, and that was it. Reed said, adding that it was all quote quite confusing.
No
I
doubt.
mean, yeah.
Little
Don't they say that?
startling.
Like you go and it's like quiet, and then it takes like a few seconds, and then suddenly like all the noise comes back at like once. I think I've
Yeah,
heard that before. Yeah.
you know something's wrong then. Like if all the animals go
Yeah.
silent or something, you're like, okay, what is up?
Dun dun dun.
Not good, not good.
No, I'm getting a Gordo. Hold on. Hi. It's just alcohol. Stop. You just shoved your ear in my mouth. Hi. Hi, Vito buddy.
I
Okay.
love it when they
I'm
bash
gonna,
themselves against you and you're like, okay, hello.
I'm gonna read about aliens. Um, so some of the sightings were reported to local police. Oh, my throat's all weird.
As
The
Gordo
son
puts
of
a hand on your chest. Hello, mommy. No.
So sightings were reported to local police, and the son of the police chief from Sheffield says that he remembers his father actually privately looking into some of the UFO reports from that night, but he says his dad didn't really take them very seriously and wasn't like officially investigating them as a police officer.
Okay. So just more
Yeah,
on his own time.
kind of.
Yeah.
Several people also, it said, called into local radio station WSBS. However, it's noted that no tapes were ever saved from that night's broadcast. So any reported sightings that were aired and these recordings are now like completely lost.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if that's on if that's suspicious or just kind of, because it was a while ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
So David Izzy, the general manager of the local radio station, WSBS, says, quote, "We had listeners call the radio station that evening. At the time, they didn't know it was a UFO. They just, called the station to say something bizarre has happened." Yeah.
They
It's
call
also
their
said
local
that like
radio station. I don't know. That's
it's in 60s.
right. Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
put it on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. Holy shit, man! I just saw UFO.
I know. I want the most up-to-date information. I guess I'll go to the radio. It was probably the fastest shit.
Yeah, it did say that like the host of the station like that was doing that broadcast did end up like after a couple people called in was asking people like to call in with their reports so that they could stay up to date on like its movement or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I feel like it's kind of weird that nothing was recorded or saved from that night because they were then like asking people about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They still purge their records.
Yeah, just like who cares? Yesterday's news.
Yeah.
After this whole event, though, people ended up using like the Reed's Diner that I mentioned as kind of a meeting place for a bunch of the local people to talk about their experiences from that night. However, like most of the kids that ended up seeing things that night, a lot of them kept it to themselves because in school, a lot of the kids that did speak about what they saw publicly were like bullied or harassed or even got into fights. And same kind of thing with same kind of thing with like the adults even.
Sure.
It said that like the Reed family, the mom Nancy, she ended up like basically getting harassed. She ended up getting flashed by some guy that was like, "Oh, you want to see something out of this world?" and like flashed her. And she ended up like closing the diner and basically moving out of the town. Yeah.
Damn it.
People suck.
They do. I mean, that's at your place of work too. I expect that on the New York subway.
Yeah.
But, ugh.
Yeah.
It's unfair.
So I don't have too much left, but I just kind of wanted to follow up what's going on like now, I guess. So they've kind of had like a weird history in the like county Berkshire about this. So the Great Barrington Historical Society and Museum ended up inducting Thomas Reed and his family's UFO experiences into their archives. So, like the Historical Society acknowledged like what happened. And this effectively said that his account of the Berkshire UFO is true from what the article said was a professional historian's perspective.
Yeah, they acknowledged it. So,
I mean,
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
And in 2015, a historical marker was placed on the Sheffield Bridge on the spot that Reed says his family was abducted like from their car. And this like big monument was paid for through private donations that he received and was built to represent the local belief in Reed and many others' experiences on that day in September 1st, 1969. And later, there was benches as well as like lighting and decorations that were placed around the monument. And the plot of land was maintained by the nonprofit group called UFO Monument Park, Inc., which Reed ended up forming himself. So they like maintained the little monument. However, because people suck sometimes, the monument was actually removed only 4 years later in 2019 due to tensions between the community as well as some residents. as well as the town saying that, like the town of Sheffield saying that the monument was actually built on town property and that Reed had never gotten permission to build the monument there.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
Reed, the most up-to-date thing I could find said that Reed intends to fight the decision, and this resulted in, like, with the monument being taken away, that like town officials, including like the mayor and the historical society I mentioned, that like acknowledged the account, and then some like even residents ended up withdrawing their support, at least publicly, of Reed.
Really?
Yeah, this, I don't have it anymore in my notes, but it went up as high up as like the like governor of the state or something had like previously like supported Reed, like made a statement publicly or something, and he ended up withdrawing that, saying it had been like taken out of context and then he apologized for it or something.
Oh
So
my
it's like a
God, what a
big
bunch
thing.
of
Yeah.
cowards. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, like I don't know. There's a bunch of people that believe it. It's a monument. Like, I don't know. Kind
I'm
of
sorry. Don't
stupid.
get me started on the monuments. I was reading something earlier this week that there was one in Canada that people, because we have torn down a few here. We've had some protests of our own, as people well know now, but with the truckers and whatever. But I guess there was a monument pulled down of like a prominent like gay figure, and like he was put up there and people loved him because he was a big figure in the gay community. But then some rumor got started that he was involved in residential schools, which were horrible schools that took away like
Yeah.
Native American rights. Yeah, if people don't know, but it wasn't true as far as the basic
Um,
articles I was reading. And so it was like, oh, so now that this fucking poor statue is just defaced because people thought they're doing the right thing, but they don't maybe take the time to even research, it seems like.
yeah, that's like people reading the headlines and like not clicking in
Stupid.
to like look at the article. Like,
And just feeling like, yeah, Victoria, like social justice outrage, and just like, I don't know, it's craziness. Politics makes me
uh,
mad.
yeah, that kind of stuff is hard. Like,
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's what it reminds me of. It's like people, if
yeah,
someone likes someone enough to put up a monument, I mean, not saying they're all of good people, but like, who are you to
yeah,
necessarily decide to be the ones to take it down? Like, I don't know. We could decide on that in a civilized way.
yeah.
Ugh, craziness.
I did try and find a picture of this because it's mentioned in like a bunch of stuff, but I couldn't really. Um,
Mm,
it said that there is, based on like the sightings and descriptions
excuse
of
me.
the UFO from Berkshire, that there is supposed to be like a replica of it that was
Oh.
built, and it's still apparently to this day, as far as I know, is actually part of the International UFO Museum and Research Center in Roswell, New Mexico. So I tried to find
Oh.
pictures of this, because I thought it'd be kind of cool. And all I could get was just cliche pictures of aliens and then pictures of Roswell in New Mexico. Um, I
Yeah.
couldn't
They
get
do
a
have
picture
they
of
play
like,
it up over there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
It's been a lot for
couldn't
that
find a
little town.
picture of what like this replica is supposed to look like or anything. Um,
Mm.
I thought that would be cool. Yeah, but that's all I have. So that's the Berkshire UFO
I mean,
sighting.
that's pretty insane. That's like,
Yeah, it's pretty cool that like so many people saw them, and I don't know, I'm more
yeah.
likely to believe it when people like you got the kid that like was running in place and witnessed by somebody else, and you have like people
Mhm.
switching places in cars, and you have the girl that like, I don't know, either she got abducted by aliens and sent back to the lake, or her parents just left her in the middle of nowhere after getting ice cream and were like, hey, you can walk home. We don't care how late it is and you're 12. Like,
Right, but
which do
even
you want to
then,
believe?
why would there be missing memories
Yeah.
unless that ice cream was laced with whiskey?
Right?
Yeah. it just all seems unlikely that would all be coincidence. And the stories where there's multiple witnesses are so compelling. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish like more of the people, because they say there's like 40 people that say they witnessed it, and really like these are basically the only accounts out of those 40
Right.
that we have.
Yeah.
I wish more people felt like good to like come forward, but I think with like the problems with like the monument and like the towns and stuff kind of being against maybe like Thomas Reed or like people, that it's maybe stopped people from coming forward as much, which is unfortunate.
Or just in general, the general climate of people and UFO talk. It's just still not receptive, unfortunately. I get pegged a lot if you talk about ancient aliens. People be like, "Oh yeah," and you're like, "Really? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of good information they bring up, so I don't see why I should ignore it." Yeah.
Well, the one article I was reading did say that the one girl, I can't remember who it was saying that because of like the US government like releasing those videos like 2 years ago or whatever, right at the start of COVID.
Oh yeah, like the Tic Tac videos and stuff.
Yeah, and like
confirmed,
acknowledging that like they didn't know what these were.
Right, unidentified. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're hoping that with that, I guess at that time they were hoping more people would come forward. It doesn't really seem like it, but maybe time will tell.
Yeah, it takes time to break down a stigma, I think. So it's unfortunate, but I love hearing these stories. And I'm now really excited to tell you my case because I have noticed some similarities.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to take a quick break and then you can tell me all about it while I stop these cats from attacking each other.
Cat attack fever. All right, sounds good. Well, we're back. No telling yet whether you heard a promo or not. I might get back into it. We'll see. Surprise. Sometimes we do them, but sometimes we get too busy, or shall I say I do, because Instagram and Patreon and stuff is a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
I slack quite a bit on Facebook. I really only post like when our episode is available.
With podcasts, it seems to be like once you get big enough, then people will use it for like a group, and then they'll use it to connect to each other. But that's the only, I don't find they take off a lot, like for podcast recommendations. Say like you'll get on, like Reddit's actually good for it because there is subreddits called r/podcasting, podcast recommendations and stuff, right? Or like true crime podcasts. So then people will be like, which ones do you like? And then people will recommend some, and like I like that kind of stuff where you get a little bit of discussion and whatnot. Yeah, can be helpful. But anywho, now we get to hear another alien case, and
I'm excited.
I mean, yours was pretty cool because on the scale of the Close Encounters, it went all
a little bit of everything.
Yeah, because there was communication involved and sightings and all that stuff. That was really cool. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna get some parallels here. Ooh, crazy. Love alien episodes. All right. This one occurs in Zimbabwe. Not too long. Well, in the 1900s. I was like, not too long. I was thinking after yours, but like 1994. Yeah. Also in September, the 16th of September, outside of a place called Ruwa, which is a small agricultural center located 22 kilometers away from the capital of Zimbabwe. I can't talk. Harare.
Zimbabwe.
Oh no. I'll have to stop and look some stuff up. It'll be terrible. At this time it was more of a crossroads than an actual town. So it's like barely a village, really. Like it's just like where some farms and stuff were. And then this is where the aerial school, an expensive private school, was located.
Okay.
In the middle of nowhere. No.
Yeah.
Or at least, it's in the suburbs, I guess. If it's away from the capital, it'd be like, outside of the city. And 2 days before this incident, on September 14th, there were numerous UFO sightings reported around southern Africa. So it was reported in a few different countries on that night. Yeah, which we'll get to a little bit later, but it was more like they kind of just saw like a flash, like a streak, like one light going through the sky kind of thing. It wasn't like a bunch of lights or anything, this one. But on the incident in question on September 16th, this was at the school, the aerial school, and then more than 60 students saw an unidentified flying object land behind their school. 62, in fact, students reported seeing it. So quite a few.
Wow.
I know. Get many numbers like one of your cases with the 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I always love bigger sightings, like when there's more people involved. You're like, well, that's pretty crazy. It's harder to dismiss that. It was reported to like numerous news agencies and organizations, including the BBC. So yeah, I assume everyone knows it's like the British Broadcasting Channel or whatever, like
something like that. Yeah. They're pretty big.
Right. You're like, okay, these guys are pretty big deal. Yeah, they put out Planet Earth and all that stuff that's quite educational. So they probably report on some qualified stuff. But it was about mid-morning break time, around 10 a.m. on September 16th, and all 250 kids of the school were outside playing in the schoolyard. Relatively big schoolyard.
Yeah.
The teachers and the rest of the adult faculty happened to be inside having a staff meeting. So I'm not sure if it was maybe like junior teacher or like some sort of assistant watching the kids, because it didn't really say who was
possibly. I was gonna say who's watching the kids.
I don't know who's doing the playground duty, keeping them away from the lions and whatnot. I just know they didn't witness any of the event. Well, from most reports that I saw or anything, there wasn't any firsthand from any teachers or anything like that. But I guess there was one thing I watched that I thought a teacher was weighing in on it, but I can't remember if she said she saw anything. Yeah, there's still not a lot that you can watch about this. There's a few things like on YouTube or whatever, but
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at the time there wouldn't have been. Anyway, I'll just get to it. I thought that was interesting that all the adults appeared to be inside. It seemed like maybe the aliens were being smart. Yeah. Yeah, I made note of that. But also the kids were about age 6 to 12, so younger grades. And they said that they saw between 1 and 3 crafts, or at least round objects, appear in the sky before some said darting about, and also then landing or at least hovering on like the field area that they were in with this student. Ooh, very close.
It's pretty creepy.
Encounters. Yeah. So according to the students, between like 1 and 4 creatures actually disembarked from the craft and looked right at the kids. Yeah, it's like they definitely came out and looked at them. They were so young, and that would be so creepy.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture like because 12-year-olds like aren't stupid. So like
You think maybe the 6-year-olds are like, oh, that's probably my imagination.
yeah, but like 12-year-olds, I'm thinking yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's a little more reliable.
My daughter's 14 now. Sometimes I'm like, oh shit, you're going to high school next year. But then other times I'm like, yeah, like you already talk like you're 20. You already have that life cynical thing going on.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, it was really cool how they all remembered seeing the figures come out. And some of them remembered them standing on top of the craft, others like in front. And they were described by some as like your typical kind of grays type of aliens.
Hmm.
So yeah, your classic big head, big eyes situation, but wearing black clothing. And others remembered them as looking like apparently more like regular black men. So I don't know.
No.
That's similar enough in my head. It could have been just like different descriptions kind of thing or interpretations.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, it seemed that many reported that they spoke to them telepathically. So connections.
Creepy.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And apparently they were told to like basically nurture and protect planet Earth. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's very nice. I like that.
They are so trying to look out for us. Much as we're like, we don't believe in you. Then they left. They got back into the craft, and some said faded, some said flew away. And Emily Trim, she was one student, has done a few interviews about the incident as an adult, and I listened to one or two of those. She said that as soon as the bell rang, that's like kind of when the spell broke almost, but like it almost sounded like a trance being broken, because she said they weren't really aware of time passing before that it like kind of felt distorted, was a word she used. So
okay.
yeah, it does make me think of like the time jumps and everything. And she said it felt like it could have been way longer than the 15 minutes, like, their break usually was. So I was like, okay. It's just like, wow. And then how we talked about a few days earlier, there had been several reports of UFO sightings kind of all over Southern Africa, all over the continent. Specifically, one was described as looking like a meteoric fireball. Well, most people say now it was probably actually a rocket, as people found out later, but it would end up having some significance in this case after all.
Okay.
Yeah. It was later identified as the quote re-entry of the Zenit 2 rocket from the Cosmos 2290 satellite launch. The booster broke up into burning streaks as it moved silently across the sky, giving an impressive light show to millions of Africans. End quote.
No, so it was just that was explainable and identifiable though.
That one on the 14th seems to be. I tried to go online to double check, and it is, at least listed in this one person's compilation of all these re-entry rockets. And I'm like, I guess, who am I to doubt you?
Yeah.
But I mean, I also did see a majority of his sources of the sightings were from this person that we're going to introduce right now to because millions of Africans. Oh yeah, so that it got picked up by a radio station, much like you had one in your case. Was, like, talked about on a radio station. They talked about this UFO sighting, or this September 14th sighting that's probably a rocket now, but people thought it was a UFO sighting. So while it was still unidentified, they were asking for people to call in to see if they had any information or pictures or anything they saw that night. And many people answered this ZBC's radio request. And one person that called in happened to be Cynthia Hind. And Cynthia Hind is an editor for UFO, or was an editor for, I'm not sure if she still is, something called UFO Afra News.
Okay. Africa News?
Basically. Hang on. Yeah, UFO Afra News at the time. And also she was the African representative for MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network.
Okay. I was like, I don't know what that is.
You don't? Okay, then I watch too much Ancient Aliens. Yes, it's the Mutual UFO Network. So it's like all the people, it's like a group. You can join it, but it's like everyone investigating UFOs, basically. Like, but it's a global network. So I guess they only had one representative for Africa, which I thought sad, but still, I'm glad that it's global representation, I suppose. So yeah, it's safe to say this Cynthia was a UFO enthusiast. She heard the radio show asking for people to contact the BBC to talk about the recent supposed sighting on September 14th of the rocket. And the BBC was covering the story. And they're, obviously a much bigger news station. So Cynthia called the BBC and spoke with their correspondent in Zimbabwe, whose name was Tim Leach. And that was how she learned about the aerial school sighting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which obviously she was happy to as a UFO enthusiast, but that was what I gleaned, was that's how she learned about this, because it wasn't really in the papers, I guess.
Okay, and that was a couple days later, right? The 16th, you said?
Yes, the 16th is when the kids saw it, exactly. And then like the other thing was 2 days before the supposed sighting. So she was very intrigued by this school sighting, and she went to visit the school herself, as she lived fairly close nearby. So she could go there and have the kids draw pictures of what they could remember. So then she took the clearest quote unquote pictures with her, apparently clearest in her opinion, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's why I did want to upload a few pictures, so then you could look at some of the
okay.
If you refresh the drive, there should be some drawing like pictures, because they're from school children.
Oh, they're pretty cute.
Yeah, like they saw a craft. Excuse me. Of the basic flying saucer type, it would seem, right? Like it's that kind of shape. Yeah. So,
and the little men in black, so cute.
Yes.
I mean,
I love it. I think it's very I'm like, yeah, those are some pretty good artists, those kids too.
Yeah, I don't even think I could draw a cute little flying saucer with trees and a little like guy in front of it, like that cute as that person did.
Truth. I have no artistic talent in that sense. My daughter must get it from her dad. Yeah. So it's pretty cool, like that a lot of them had the same type of picture. They saw them come out. And some skeptics would argue that they've probably seen it in pop culture, but I don't know, at this time the internet wasn't huge yet, and like I would argue that maybe they had. What?
Africa in the 90s, I feel like probably
94
doesn't have a lot.
Yeah, I would have been 6. We did not have the internet in Canada at that time when I was 6.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where you would have seen it unless you had seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind or something, because I think that movie might have been out by that time, or some alien movies had been, surely. But
yeah,
Not many.
And like other than that, like on the radio or in books, how much exposure do you think the
Yeah.
average like 6 to 12-year-old is gonna have? They teaching about aliens in school in Africa in the 90s? I don't think so.
Nope, they certainly weren't watching UFO fucking reruns like we were.
Yeah.
Oh. Um.
I'm definitely using this drawing though of this one because the cute little one where the guy's completely filled in black and the first
like,
drawing. I'm
with
dying.
wait, with the saucer in the back and there's a guy in front.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
so
it's just kind of like
cute.
a bubbly looking
Yeah,
UFO with very round trees, and then
yeah, like
I don't know. I
lollipop
keep saying
trees.
bubbly because they're a very round avatar sort of thing, almost like when you're on the Wii and then you have your like little
Yeah.
Wii thing, and they're like, yeah.
It's so cute. I'm obsessed with it. I'm gonna make it the thumbnail for our episode because it's
Well,
so
some
freaking
had some
cute.
talent. 6 to 12 years old. Oh yeah, they could probably draw
Yeah.
pretty well what they had seen. Like that person, I don't know who draw that one specifically, but
I don't know. It looks like it says DR something. Starts with a D. Their name and their last name starts with an R. That's all I can make out.
mostly, yeah. And mostly the only student that I'll talk about by name that I found was a girl named Emily. So I'm not sure, but again, it's one of those things, right? People think you are in it for fame, and you're like, I just had this happen to me.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Oh.
Most 6-year-olds don't have some like 15 minutes of fame
No,
plot for the rest of their lives figured out.
they would rather the aliens just be real than like to make up a story that they're not real.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I love that there's like little kid drawings of this one. I was like, oh yeah, I need to upload some of these if I could find.
Yeah.
But of course there's always skeptics and stuff, but there's both sides of the coin in this one. So this Cynthia advised the BBC correspondent that he should get in touch with a man named John Mack at Harvard.
No.
Ooh. Skeptical sources I actually read a pretty good article before I realized it was on the skeptical side. Lo and behold, you read the like web, like whatever address, and it's like skeptoid.com fucking slash podcast or something. I'm like, what? This was a pretty well written article. But
yeah,
it's nice to get, I always don't mind getting both sides. I'd rather be informed than biased.
Yeah.
So yeah, but they're definitely the skeptics, or this one particularly would say mostly that these two were the main perpetrators of the incident, of the aerial school UFO incident. This UFO enthusiast and MUFON lady, Cynthia Hind, and then this John Mack guy from Harvard. Now, John Mack was a respected professor of psychiatry at Harvard. Psychiatry, sorry. I mean,
Okay.
so probably pretty smart, I'd imagine, but
oh my god.
Hello, my gordo. Hello, you bum bum.
He immediately starts purring and ripping my headphones out of my ears. Hi, hold on.
That's a very toddler
here.
thing to do.
He is. He's a big baby.
Oh, right. And then well, especially them, they're better with their paws than dogs who could basically just go up and down almost.
Yeah, Gordo's smart. He literally, he'll go like this and like flip the bottle cap. He'll like pick it up, and then sometimes he'll go like this and he'll pick it up and bring it to his mouth so he can bite it and carry it. Like, he's so smart. Easy
That's cute. You don't
emergy.
always see them do stuff like that. And then I don't know if it's because I'm like, are they not as smart as monkeys? Or are they just lazy? Or
Yeah, that's why I want a video of it. So I could be like, proof,
yeah,
proof, he's so smart.
that's true. Yeah, Fenrir will do whatever the heck he can to get any treats out that we give him.
Yeah.
Especially, yeah, you put him in those little ball and you're like, I'll figure out a way to get it out. Don't you worry. I'll just smush it
Yeah.
up. Oh. Oh yeah, so John came from Harvard to visit the kids a few months after the sighting occurred. And he interviewed the kids and videotaped most of the interviews. Although I couldn't find like I tried looking at the ones when they were kids, but I couldn't find any of those on like YouTube or anything. But I could find some of the like there's some of them as adults. So
Yeah.
I did see some of those, like I think I said, but he basically reported back to the world at large that the event was genuine. He believed the children were telling the truth and that extraterrestrials had indeed visited Zimbabwe on that day in 1994. All right. I like it. A little transcription of one of the interviews with Mac and one of the girls was, Mac, what was the feeling when you looked at the eyes? Girl number one, it was scary. Mac, scary why? What made it scary? Girl number one, the eyes looked evil. Mac, evil? What was evil about them? Say what you mean by evil. Girl number one, it looked evil because it was just staring at me. Staring at you as if what? As if to do what? Girl number one, as if it wanted to come and take us.
Aw.
Yeah.
I'm happy I'm holding a cat. Gordo, protect me.
I think it was at least unnerving for most of them.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them were like terrified. None of them used that word that I heard, but it would have to be fucking freaky.
Yeah. I don't know what I'd do if I saw aliens.
As an adult, right? It's like, I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe as a
I'd
kid, you would
probably go
be
to the doctor and be like,
better.
I think I'm hallucinating.
And I mean, in a way, I think almost maybe that's why kids are, more receptive to this stuff. So I
Yeah.
wonder if that didn't come into play, but that's just my thought. Speaking of which, he said, Mac said, how did these thoughts come to you? Did they come to you from the craft or from, this different interview, girl number two, from the man, Mac? And did the man say those things to you? How did he get that across to you? Girl number two, he never said anything. It was just the eyes. Mac, what was the sense you got from those eyes? Girl number two, he was interested.
No. Don't like that.
It's a little concerning. A quote I grabbed from one of the articles, also on just the kids' reaction. A fifth grader called Francis tells the gentle-eyed psychiatrist he was warned, quote, about something that's going to happen. Sorry, quote within a quote, I guess. And that, quote, pollution mustn't be. 11-year-old Emma says, I think they want people to know that we're actually making harm on this world and we mustn't get too technologed. Technologed, yeah. Like she made her kind of own word. But like, it's like you get the drift.
Yeah.
So interesting. One of the written articles had somebody like went out to interview one of the kids as an adult, and I guess she met her at a bar, and I don't know, I thought she was very direct about her way of talking about the experience, and so I have some of it. it was like, after reading the article, Sarah ordered another castle and said, to be perfectly honest, I don't think you would be here talking to me now if it weren't for that woman, meaning Cynthia Hind, the MUFON lady.
Oh, okay. I'm like, I forgot who Cynthia was.
I know, right? What happened at Ariel was certainly weird. So many kids coming back from break with such similar stories, but I doubt many people would have heard about it if Hind hadn't made such a fuss. She was the first person to interview the kids and got the news out to all sorts of important people, Mac included, as if, finally here was some vindication. Hind's description of Mac from this time do indeed suggest she regarded him as something of a redeemer figure, a man who was not only open-minded and prepared to listen, but an academic of some standing, and one who has risked his credibility with his colleagues to come out and say he believes the experiences of abductees are very real indeed. Sucks that if you say you believe in any alien abduction stories, you're going to lose your credibility, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, come on. It's just like, sorry, science, hypotheses, why are we all so mean to every other scientist that we don't agree with or don't have the same hypothesis as? It's so stupid and such an exclusionary club sometimes, when they should all just share information together because that would help us all. But like, instead it's like, no, I have to be the winner. We're just like, just like any
it's
other
very competitive
profession. Yeah, I mean, as they are in politics and war and fucking everything else, but yeah. So stupid.
Oh my god.
What's Buttface doing?
I had a Lindor chocolate or a Lindt chocolate during the break, and Gordo flicked his tail and it touched the wrapper and he's like, ooh, crinkly. And I could see his eyes go, oh, what was that? And he was like on the move to go grab it. So I had to snatch it away. Or he would have eaten it.
Right. We found something. Oh, I think I found a muffin cover, or what are they in? A muffin
like
thing?
The cup?
Paper? Yeah, like
yeah.
It was, and Rain had it in her garbage. And if it's any kind of garbage that the dog can get into on his level, he'll find a way. Rain would just like, we always like have her keep her door closed and stuff, right? But it's like, oh no, the minute she goes into the bathroom, like he just like, oh, I'm gonna nose my way into Rain's room and see what trouble I can get up to.
Takes 1 second. We always do that sometimes. I'm like in the bathroom and I'm like, God, you both were sleeping. And I'm like in the bathroom and I can hear them freaking out. I'm like, what is going on? You guys were sleeping like 30 seconds ago.
Oh my God. It's amazing how much they really are like toddlers.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. Yeah. Oh yeah. So not my favorite part, but skeptics point out how this John Mack from Harvard appeared to be fairly obsessed with aliens before the school incident. And so some of his colleagues already thought him alien crazy, I would imagine. He had written a book called Abduction: Human Encounters with Aliens. But he still worked for Harvard. I don't know.
Yeah. He's obviously not like insane.
I don't know. It's terrible, the brush they get painted with. Like, they had even opened up an investigation into his conduct just because he had basically, from what I read, told several people that had claimed to have been abducted that he believed them and that their stories were valid and real in his mind,
And what's wrong with that? That makes no sense.
Tell your opinion. I mean, it's almost like they're like part of a political party or something. They have to like toe the line, right? To still be employed. It's like, ugh. But he has his own words. Oh, and he was a Pulitzer Prize winner, as the one thing mentioned, but he said After explaining vaguely that concerns had been expressed to the university about what I was doing, although he told of no specific complaint, nor was any offered in the letter, he added pleasantly, for he had a friend and colleague, that I would not have gotten into trouble if I had not suggested in the book, Abduction, that my findings might require a change in our view of reality, rather than saying that I had found a new psychiatric syndrome whose cause had not yet been established. God forbid he say something might require a change in views, I guess, in reality.
Yeah, but like
that.
don't most scientific discoveries like
They are met with ridicule at first, I would say. Yeah. Max Standard, this is still a quote from an article. It'll be my sources. Max Standard rejoinder was to point out that although alien encounters were not possible according to the science of the times, they might nevertheless turn out to be real in some way that we do not yet understand, as the bizarre reports of rocks we now call meteorites falling from the sky seemed impossible in the 18th century.
Right? And like trying to explain gravity to people that we clearly agree with today.
Yeah.
Like unseen forces are holding you to this earth. Would have been like, okay.
Right? I mean,
or like atoms and like protons or like anything like that you can't see. Like it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Maybe that's the like whole thing with flat earthers and stuff. They're like, they just like stuck in that supernatural, superstitious background. I can't believe this stuff is all science, because then what does it mean when all shit goes to hell? I don't know.
I just look at it and think for like flat earthers, I'm like, okay, you can literally get a telescope and you can look at other planets and see that every single one of them's round. Why would you think the one that you're on isn't? And I'd be like, how?
I don't want to say it, but I was reading something earlier, and obviously it's the internet. It's there, but it was a BuzzFeed thing, and I love all our American listeners, but it was something about Americans. There was the map and like, how are they gonna bomb us over here? And someone posted in California, if they're all the way over in North Korea, it's all the way across the map.
In North Korea? No.
It's all laid out flat, like, I mean, obviously, because how could you not see it flat when you're on a computer screen? But
yeah,
it just made me think, oh no, accidental flat earther, just because you're not informed enough. You can always find that shit on the internet though, where people like stupid things, posts and comments about geography, their lack of knowledge thereof.
Yeah.
And it's not always Americans. We like you guys. We even have some listeners in, I think, Hawaii now. I mean, we're reaching out.
Yeah. And every map they say is skewed based on the country or whatever that like produces it. That country is almost always like just spatially a little bit bigger than like it's supposed to be. So they say like maps in Canada that Canada is bigger like than like scale wise it should be in comparison to the US. And then the like maps in the US make Canada look smaller, but that like maps in North America always make North America look bigger than
like, I mean, I love it. It makes me think of like draw yourself. How would you draw yourself? Or like schools like draw your penis size. How would you draw? You'd be like, it is this big.
Yeah, they say it's like always wrong.
I haven't come across that to a noticeable degree, but like it's hilarious. You know what I mean? Like having an atlas and looking at stuff, or like Googling things. I've not seen it look misrepresented, but who the fuck knows, right?
Right? Yeah.
It's like you get something up against something else that's never next to on the map, and you're like, is fucking A province of Canada about the size of a country in Europe? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, when they show
Small.
like, they're always like, yeah, Alaska always looks so small on maps. And then they show Alaska, and Alaska
Yeah,
is like
yeah.
huge.
Yeah, I mean, our northern
Like,
part is huge too. Yeah, they would go up just as fucking far as Yukon, or that's their neighbor.
yeah.
Oh, anyway, fuck. Oh, um, one other thing of note about the kids that saw the UFO and the creatures at the schoolyard were just how diverse, even though it was a wealthy private school, um, it wasn't only white kids like or anything like that. Um, it was a diverse background, and because of some of the different cultural upbringings, there were some different interpretations of the creatures and stuff like that reported. So, for example, some of the Black African children from different tribes saw the beings and thought they might have either been, I'm so sorry, I've not looked it up because it looks like it's Zvikwambo or Tokoloshes, evil goblins of Shona or Debele folklore. So evil
Oh,
goblins, great.
yeah.
So those kids were anxious, and some of them began to like cry in fear when they saw the creatures. The Zvikwambo are, quote, believed to be visible only to those they attack. Maybe why they thought
Oh,
some of the kids didn't see them. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Or like, because not all the kids that were out, there was 250 kids in the school, but only like 60 some reported to have seen this. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It was a big fucking schoolyard. It's in the middle of Africa. It was just, it didn't have a fence. Its boundary was some logs.
Hmm. Just happened to be looking the wrong way.
I don't know. All the teachers just happen to be inside, right?
Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, also these little goblins that they thought they looked like, they are supposedly mischievous or mischievous, I think is the proper pronunciation. They've been accused of, quote, invading marital beds and claiming sexual favors to attacking nurses and the police. All sorts of hijinks, these little
Attacking
goblins.
nurses and the police.
I know, I quoted that part and then I was like, oh wait, I didn't change the grammar and this might not make sense, but they're, yeah, invading marital beds, claiming sexual favors, attacking nurses and even the police.
That's a weird like MO.
I know. Is it specifically nurses and police? No doctors, RCMP, ambulance.
Yeah.
Just some of the people in power and emergency services. I don't know.
No single people. Don't attack the singles.
Oh, please leave them alone. Leave us all alone. But I spoke of her a little earlier, I think. Emily Trim was one of the students who has at least talked a few times as an adult about the experience. And she had said that before they saw the craft, they were like playing on the boundary logs that marked the perimeter of the schoolyard. And her friends saw a big flash and heard like this high-pitched noise. And then after they saw the craft and the like alien came out and looked at them when they were communicating, she saw a series of images flash before her eyes. And that was kind of how they communicated with her, basically. So like
Oh, okay.
not really words in your head, I think more of ideas. But like they all seem to receive the same message, to use technology wisely, like that there's a right way to use it, not in the wrong way. Of course, we should know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I hate reading the skeptic stuff because then it's like, I think I read stuff that said that maybe the technology aspect didn't come out until some of the other interviews, and I was like, really? But like, I don't know. I know it's easy to implant memories in people, but like, I don't know, specifically about technology and stuff, that seems weird for kids to make up. So I'm inclined to believe it, I guess.
Yeah.
But they were sometimes described in more detail as looking like not quite glowing, but they were like reflective and kind of luminous. And one girl described it similar to having like a sheen on something that's like kind of iridescent, trying to look right at them, and they're kind of like shiny
Oh, okay.
creatures. And then they basically like just floated above the ground too. So
That'd be creepy. I
ooh,
wouldn't want to see no floating, nothing.
I know it sounds almost like ghosts, but then almost like angels or something. You know, it's very like, I don't know. Something we can't understand. Okay, one thing I almost didn't include until I saw other people confirming, because on the video I wasn't sure I heard her correctly. The Emily girl said, the student said the face that she looked at kind of seemed to flash back and forth between like a being and then like a lion. And I was like, did I hear that right?
A lion.
Yeah, because I was like, well, they said they were glowing, and or not really glowing, but sort of like luminescent. I thought that she said maybe a light, because like the audio was hard to hear in the version I was listening to. But then people had commented wherever and like same thing, oh, that's weird, you know, kind of like a lion, because there's something like that in the Bible. And I was like, what, did she really say that? And I didn't hear it wrong. But so it's possible that like they kept trying to like purport, they maybe appear to be different faces, like a being, a humanish being, and then maybe like a lion. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting if that was the case.
Yeah.
I'd never heard anything like that before. That's why I was really unsure at first.
Yeah, lion.
I mean, yeah, like I said, other people seem to have heard the same thing, but like she was a little timid talking about it. And as right you would be. Like you should, like,
Yeah.
anyone that seems to see really, really believable UFO encounters and stuff, they're like, I don't want this, it just happened. But that's about it. Like I said, once the kids heard the bell ring, it was kind of like the spell was broken. Time had felt a little distorted. It could have been shorter, longer than the usual break time. And then yeah, just like with all the different kids there with the backgrounds and religion, that Emily girl, she was there with her family on a mission trip. She might have said she was originally from Canada. I can't remember, but I just can't help but wonder if, you know, they are more likely to come see kids and stuff because, and, you know, also a diverse group of them, because maybe there would be a more receptive group to talk to rather than adults who are set in their ways and kind of
Yeah.
biased and stuff. So I think they probably reported the kids, like said exactly what happened to them as best of their abilities, and like memories are sucky, but they seem to be pretty consistent for most people's opinions. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Interesting
like
one.
class. By the way, my graduating class,
Yeah.
we kind of saw some aliens, and they
With the class of UFOs.
Oh, what was I listening to? And then it was The Office had a recyclone or something. I was listening to The Office ladies. It's like, yeah, it's like, okay, that's what we have to do. The aliens told us. Then we better get our shit together, because
Yeah.
it's like your parents telling you to clean up your room. Clean up your planet.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Clean that shit up. All right. Well, join us on Patreon for our newest videos, and our next bonus Patreon video is going to be about April disasters. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of things that happened in April, apparently, and
I've never heard about this before, so
I've heard
I don't.
once that there was a theory that more things happened then, but then also I can think of at least the Titanic, so we know some crappy things have happened.
Yeah.
Terrible disasters that you never want to be a part of. We'll see you next week for weird weapons.
Yeah, weird murder weapons. We're going to find the weirdest ways either people have been killed or attempted to be killed with. The weirdest thing.
That's fun. We do talk
Yeah.
about the perfect murder weapon sometimes. So
Yeah. So
I'm looking forward to that.
no guns, no axes, hammers.
No.
Nothing like that. We're gonna go as weird or strange as we can.
Oh yeah, if it involves like a pickle jar, a musical instrument, a car, I don't know, something, it's then we'll go for it.
Yeah, I was listening to something where they were talking. I honestly can't remember what it was at all.
Oh, it happens to me
too. It was it from, I think it was when I was watching The Staircase, actually.
Oh.
And they were talking, I think one of the weren't they talking about previous cases getting thrown out or something, maybe, and they were talking about a guy that speared himself through his own leg with an ancient javelin or something, and had tried to fake that somebody else had tried to kill him by putting a javelin that was 300 years old through his leg in 2 spots. And I was like, what? Yeah.
It's well, I tripped and fell and landed on this ancient thing inside of this security vault. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy.
So when I thought of strange murder weapons, I was like, yeah, ancient javelin through the leg is pretty interesting. But I'm not gonna do that one because I don't even remember what it was from, and it was fake because the guy did it to himself. But yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That could be a good twist though in the future. You never know.
Yeah. But so it should be a good episode next week.
Ooh,
it's always
crimes
good.
with a twist. I can definitely think of a case if we ever do one that's in that theme.
Crimes with a twist?
Well, because so sometimes you're just watching the forensic files and you think you know who the killer is, and then you're like, bam, and you don't.
It just reminds me, did you get around to watching The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window or whatever?
No, because we're trying to finish other things like Mr. Mercedes and stuff.
No. Well,
things that are taking us way longer.
Speaking of twist at the end. Spoiler.
Oh, I'm sure there is. It's like a comedy.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Kristen Bell is good. I love the good.
Yeah. There's a Bailey Sarian. Netflix gets her to do a couple times a month, do a watch along thing where they'll get her to watch clips or whatever of a show. And I don't know if they made her watch all of the series or not, where they showed her specific clips and had her comment and try and guess who's gonna be the killer at the end. And she got it right, full episodes before the reveal. And it was damn. Yeah.
No,
it was pretty good.
I've listened to a few watch alongs kind of sort of thing, or more watch alongside, it's more of a review kind of thing of each episode. Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, if I like the host, I'll definitely watch that. No big deal. But yeah, that's so cool that they wanted her to. I'd be like, whoa. Yeah,
she did it. She did an episode of Lucifer she tried to solve. She did The one show also movie I watched that I didn't watch her thing about, but it was like there's somebody inside your house or something. It was like a teenage like slasher kind of drama movie.
Oh, yeah, that does sound like the classic call from inside the house, or
Yeah.
when a stranger calls is kind of the title, I
Yeah.
guess, of those type of original ones. But
Yeah. Anyway.
Horrors, we love them.
Yeah.
What should we watch next? We can watch something for Patreon. I know people do watch longs for Patreon. If they want it, we'll do it.
The last horror movie I watched was, well, I'm gonna say it's terrible, but I actually
The
enjoyed
Oscars?
it. No. Was the Brahms The Boy too? It was like the second one. Yeah, if you remember like the creepy doll that the girl from The Walking Dead, she's like the main girl in it, and she's supposed to be going to like the weird house and babysit, and it ends up just being this doll, and then they're like, yeah,
it's a doll, but it's not really a doll. There's like a boy.
yeah, well, they did like a second movie with it, and then basically just like, yeah, and then they basically just walked backwards on everything that they set up in the first one, and we're like, oh, cool. So you just like changed the entire story of the doll? Awesome. Like, changed the entire premise.
Or was just like the plot just driving you crazy that whole time, the way it made no sense? And like
it was okay.
Yeah.
But like in the first movie, they're like, yeah, like we had the doll made because he looked like our son or whatever, and then or like grandson, and then they're like,
almost like Robert the doll.
Yeah. And then I was talking to one girl at work, and she's like, yeah, I hated that they almost made the movie be supernatural about the doll being possessed, and then they walked back on it, and we're like, yeah, no, it's actually just like a creepy kid living in the walls that's moving the doll and actually talking to the doll, and everybody thinks it's the doll. And then in the second movie, I was like, no, you should watch the second movie then, because they also walk backwards on all of that, and they make the doll supernatural again, and that the doll has been possessing kids to murder their entire families, Amityville style, for like the last 250 years, and that it's been the same doll, and that old couple didn't commission the doll to look like their son because the doll's been around for 250 years or whatever. And she's like, what? And I was like, yeah, they pretty much just like rewrote everything about like the premise of the doll.
They retconned it. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, like it is possessed, it's an entity now, it's not based on the one kid, it's like 200 years old and it's possessed and all this stuff. Yeah, it was just like, okay.
Sometimes they do that. They're like,
yeah, it was kind of weird.
Let's see if we change it all, like for the sequel, because sequels are hard. You're like,
yeah.
Should you change everything though, or maybe keep like one thing that people liked and try and see if that works as a sequel?
They had like articles and were like, yeah, the doll that's had the same name since the 1800s. Like, here's a newspaper article saying that it convinced like a 6-year-old to like murder his parents, and it's like, oh, cool. Yeah.
It's the original Chucky. All right.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, not that it wasn't good. It was like a B horror movie, but it was just kind of like, you guys just like messed up everything you guys accomplished in the first one.
Yeah, I mean, and I can kind of, I guess what I was saying is I can overlook a little bit of a shitty plot, because as long as it's entertaining. But if it's not, then you're gonna just be like, this just has a shitty plot and I'm just watching it, it's a waste of time.
I mean, I felt compelled to watch it to the end to see how it ended. So
I can't not watch the end of movies. It feels like a curse.
Oh, I can. The amount of movies I like log in that I've watched in Letterboxd and then have to log back in 20 minutes later because I've already given up watching them, and like, yeah, no.
Well, if you can't get through 20 minutes, yes. I mean, that's not even worth it. But I remember telling Ray the other night, she was she ended up feeling a little freaked out because she was home alone with the dog. We were out gaming down the street. And then she was like, oh, and I said, Pat, you made her watch a freaking murder mystery type movie, like one of those Hercule Poirot, Agatha Christie turn movies lately. They keep doing like the guy on the train, or like murder mystery on the train, and then
Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes, sorry. I'm like, it's a classic. I can't remember the name. Yes. And then like he's like, you'll like it. There's a new one coming out. And then I'm like, then she's alone home with the dog, and the dog's like barking out at the darkness, and she's like texting me being like, when are you guys coming home? And I'm like, well, soon.
Yeah.
I was like, we're literally just down the street, we won't be long. But yeah. Funny. And I was saying how it's like funny how I can watch a horror movie and like be okay, and it'll be funny because if like Pat falls asleep, I said, well, sometimes I'll literally feel like more scared as soon as he falls asleep, because then I'll feel like I'm alone, and then I get more freaked out, and it's so illogical, but it's just like watching horror movies alone, you just like feel creeped out more. I don't know.
See, I kind of have this opposite thing where like other people, like the movie affecting them too much, where they start getting really scared, affects me. Where like I can sit and watch like a horror movie and be like, cool, like, and it won't really do anything unless I watch a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Like back to back to back. Or it's like true stories. Yeah. When I was binge watching like BuzzFeed Unsolved, I watched too many of the true crime and supernatural ones like in a row.
Yeah.
And then
definitely watched.
Let's just say I had problems sleeping for like 3 days.
Yo, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, some, it's just like dark. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. So I tell people at work, they're like, what did you do? Or whatever. Or somebody will ask me like, what's the last movie you watched? And I was like, oh, this morning I was watching like whatever. And it's like a crazy, like, might as well tell people I was watching Saw 3 over breakfast. And like, I was watching like Saw this morning at 7. I woke up at 7, turned on the movie Saw, got ready for work.
Saw 3, so I had 3 eggs.
Yeah. And then people are like, you're watching a horror movie at like 7 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, because it's like, it's a movie. Like, and then lots of times they're only 90 minutes, and that's perfect. I can watch it all before I go to work.
Well, I mean, that's you gotta do what you gotta do, right? I mean, especially when you gotta fucking go work for the man.
Yeah, I can't be alone with my thoughts.
No, I just do it. I do it at the end of the day. I'm like, oh, I have been up, and now I have to get up in a few hours, but that's okay. I can take this hour to myself. Yeah.
Oh, see, I still watch stuff at the end of the day too. It's just all day, every day.
It's true. Oh, well, next time, did we say what it was?
Yeah. And then we talked for like 20 more minutes.
All right. Well,
if anybody's still listening,
thank you for listening.
Catch us next week. Bye.
Peter's out. Mic drop. No.
This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.